Let me set the scene. The year is 1773. A group of angry colonists had just thrown hundreds of chests of tea into the Boston harbor. 201 years later, England is still salty about it, but little did they know, back across the Atlantic Ocean, two students at the University of Southern Illinois are about to create the first ever boss fight. Granted, it looks like this. Which is why I won't actually be talking about the history of boss fights. I'll instead be talking about what makes a good boss fight and what makes a bad one. Alright, let me set the scene. The year is 2022. I had just said something like build-up contributes to a good boss fight or some shit like that. Now I'm here to expand upon that statement. You can't have a good boss fight without good build-up. Imagine in Metal Gear Rising if Jetstream Sam just kinda showed up, you fought him and you killed him, and that was it. That would be lame as hell. Half the reason that's such a good boss fight is the build-up prior. He appears at the very start of the game, beats the shit out of you, cuts off your arm, and leaves. He then taunts you for the rest of the game until you finally meet him face to face in fucking Oklahoma. There's nothing standing between you two and only one of you will leave. Then the boss fight starts. That's a whole video game's worth of build-up to a single climactic encounter between two rivals. And now on top of a baller boss fight, which I'll talk about later, you now have emotion behind the fight. But a boss doesn't have to be built up throughout the course of an entire game, nor does it have to be super over the top and flashy. Sometimes a subtle build-up is the way to go. Let's look at Hollow Knight, more specifically the Mantis Lord's boss fight. The way this boss is built up is just straight up genius. Pretty early on in the game, you'll find a specific part of one of the many areas in the game that is home to a village of mantises. You'll quickly notice that the enemies are much faster, stronger, and smarter than the mindless husks that have walked into your sword for the duration of the game. They have multiple attacks of their own, they'll dodge your swings, and they'll even close doors to block your path.
You bitch.
Now there's a bunch of lore and stuff explaining why this is, but I'm not going to get into this now. Essentially, these guys are all smart and shit. Continuing deeper into the village, you'll find a room containing 3 thrones with mantises on them. Previously, Hollow Knight has established that starting a boss fight entails walking into the boss room, the boss makes his entrance, then you slap it up until it dies. However, this fight is different. Upon walking up to the mantises, you're greeted with a one-word prompt: challenge. The new enemy types establish that the mantises are much more civilized than the other bugs of Hollow Nest. And then the prompt to challenge the Mantis Lords rather than the fight starting immediately gave so much character to the boss fight before the battle even began. Okay, enough baby-ass pussy shit about build-up and character. It's time to get to what actually matters, the fight itself. The point of a boss fight is to be challenging and to test the player's skill. Let's go back to Jetstream Sam. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is a game about parrying, and memes for some reason. The mechanic is introduced right at the start of the game and it builds upon itself as you progress, facing harder, stronger, and faster enemies. Eventually, knowing how to parry goes from a suggestion to a requirement. Your last encounter with Sam went like this. So when you finally face him in a rematch and you do this... Oh shit, you know what I'm saying? That feeling of doing something, getting your ass beat, honing your skill to perfection, and then going back and beating his ass? That's what a good boss fight is about. I've fought a lot of good bosses in my time playing video games. Nightmare King Grim, Minos Prime, Senator Armstrong, Sans, Hades, Metaton EX, Pure Vessel, Headhunter, but sometimes a boss fight just doesn't work. Sometimes it's just bad boss design, and other times a game's mechanics are simply not made for boss fights. Doom Eternal happens to be one of those games. Doom's combat loop is genius. The way you heal and replenish ammo is by killing your enemies in different brutal ways. This, along with the small health pool and very limited ammo, forces the player into the hyper-aggressive playstyle Doom is known for. However, all of this falls apart during a boss fight. Since there's no other way to heal besides killing an enemy, Doom's boss fights are either a one-on-one with endless fodder enemies standing around waiting to be one-shot for free health, or a regular combat encounter with one very high health enemy that you're running away from and occasionally shooting at. Fuck it, I'ma compare Doom to Ultrakill. Instead of having resources be replenished upon killing an enemy, in Ultrakill you simply heal by doing close range damage, which solves the single target issue Doom has while perfectly retaining the same hyper-aggressive playstyle. A boss fight can go so many ways. It can be about knowing the ins and outs of the fight and the only way to win is to perfect it. It can be about out-damaging the boss and killing it before it can kill you. It can be about having a number big enough to win. Or it can be a stupid bitch who flies around spawning a million fucking projectiles either off-screen or just fucking on top of you and then launches at you with the speed and accuracy of a professional esports player, and the game expects you to avoid them while only giving you 5 fucking tiny floating platforms to stand on! Fuck Markov!
You know it.